welcome to the Rethink Productivity podcast. I'm delighted to welcome back our returning guest, Dan Wells, CEO and founder at Rendell Intelligence and Insights. And we are back, Di, talking about May, June.
May.
Yeah, May.
Yeah. 2 bank holidays in May.
You can tell I'm still on holiday.
Yeah, lucky thing.
I know, just returned, so hence my brain mash. So, yeah, 2 bank holidays. I was trying to think what the weather was like. It was all right.
It was quite good, yeah, not bad at all. Not as hot as it is currently when we're doing this recording, but it was very passable.
No, things were kind of relatively level from the month before, weren't they? And we had that whole Easter hiccup, didn't we, of trying to plot Easter against Easter and matching up the right months. So 2 bank holidays. May's that kind of time, I suppose, when people are starting to think about if they booked a summer holiday, getting ready for it, all that kind of stuff. We had some relatively okay weather, as we've said. So hit us with the numbers then.
Hit you with the bad news, I'm afraid.
I had a funny feeling you might be saying that.
Oh, I do wish I had something positive to tell you.
We will have upbeat, like we said, kind of off air. Sometimes it has to go down to come up, doesn't it? So we will have positive ones in the future.
So the data for footfall and spend is out, as is inflation. We're still waiting for the government, the ONS retail sales, but we do have retail sales from BRC. So hitting on footfall, so BRC footfall, unfortunately, was down in the high street by 2.5%. The only channel that was up was retail parts, and that was only up by 0.2. So overall, footfall was down by 1.7. Which, of course, suggests that spending is down, and it was absolutely down. Beauclair's data, for which tracks spending in high streets, was down 1.8% year on year, which is a worse result than last May, where it was down 0.6%. BRC, which looks at retail sales across all channels, so that's store, non-store, in town and out of town, overall sales were up 1%. But non-food sales were down 1.1. So people clearly are reined back spending. So it's not particularly strong at all. And in fact has weakened from May last year. Just following through on the Beauclair data that looks at different sectors, and there are 5 sectors that account for 85% of spending in towns and cities. That's fashion, food and drink, which is hospitality, general retail, which was only department store, but now includes the value retails like B&M and Home Bargains, grocery, health and beauty. And fashion really is the poorest performer of those 5. Spending dropped by 3.6% year on year. A slight improvement from May last year when it dropped 4.2, but that's 2 years of consecutive decline. And unfortunately, general retail was a bit of a star performer last May at 6.3% up. This year is 0.7% down. So we're seeing this reining in of spending all over, really.
Which has been the theme you've touched on the kind of last 2 or 3 times we spoke, haven't you? That uncertainty in the world and in the UK, the economy, that reining of spend. We've talked historically about the mortgage rate kind of cliffs that people tend to drop off, although that softened as mortgage rates come down slightly. But that suggests there's still that general nervousness of people wanting a bit of a pot for a rainy day, all those big purchases maybe put on hold or deferred until people have more certainty. And that seems just to be the kind of, I suppose if we were in an aeroplane, it'd be in the holding pattern that we're circling around in.
Absolutely. And I do think that, when there's bad news economically and geopolitically, which there is at the moment, as we know, with Ukraine war and the Middle East, and for a lot of people, Trump in the US, people feel nervous. That doesn't make them feel confident to spend because they're worried generally. They're feeling pretty down generally. So they're much more cautious. So that comes through in terms of how and their behaviour in terms of their own personal buying habits.
And this general drop-off we've seen and consistently in fashion, that's never really bounced back since probably lockdown, has it?
No, it's been negative and on an annual basis for the last 2 years. Every month, it's been dropping away. And, there's a lot of factors at play here. I mean, I'm actually recording from a conference that I'm attending for the Association of Town and City Management, and I've been speaking to some of the delegates who are practitioners in towns and cities. And, I think the universal opinion is that, the change in the way we work and the way we dress, because of the change in the way we work, means that none of us, well, few of us have two separate wardrobes like we used to. I mean, I remember I had a work wardrobe and a leisure wardrobe. Yeah. Now we just have a wardrobe. So, of course, you wear less. And, if you're working at home 1 or 2 days a week, you don't really need decent clothing for that. You put a pair of joggers or a pair of jeans on, and you save your decent wardrobe for when you go to the office. So that there's a whole shift in our buying behaviour around fashion now, which means essentially we don't need to buy as much.
Yeah, and I suppose businesses have become more relaxed as well. So that even if we were going in 2 days a week, I wouldn't necessarily be wearing a shirt and tie or formal clothes. Most businesses operate semi-casual, trainers, smart or widely accepted jeans, casual shirts. So that's probably helped harmonise the wardrobe, hasn't it? And that must then lead to more discounting.
It does, and that's shown through. Actually, today we saw the publication of the inflation rate for May, and it's sitting at around about where it was in April. So it was in April that it was revised down to 3.5%. It's in May it was 3.4%. But actually, in clothing and footwear, there is deflation of 0.3%. So actually, that has to be through discounting, because clearly the cost of production has not reduced. But, there is a lot of discounting going on because things are just not shifting.
So good if you're looking to, I suppose, rebalance your summer wardrobe with whatever's left. And at the time of recording, it's looking like it's going to be quite nice for certainly the rest of the month we're in. But yeah, bad if you're trying to protect margin, if you're trying to move out stock. And again, one of the challenges we know certainly in retail and fashion, especially because of its seasonality, is clearing dead stock. It just becomes a challenge to move. Every time you touch it, becomes less valuable. So from a consumer's point of view, I suppose there's going to be some good offers out there in certainly fashion and footwear, hopefully over the next month or two.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember, old enough to remember a series of recessions when discounting was just the norm, and essentially it became practice not to buy anything unless, you were getting a discount on it. And I fear that that's going to almost be the case now, really. And people, with this holding pattern, if our summers are short and we're getting this, we've got a great weather at the moment. But if that doesn't last, people probably won't invest. They'll say, well, I can manage. It's only a few more weeks till the weather changes and we're into late August and then we're back to school, it's tough for the fashion industry. It always has been. Seasons are short, but you have all these other factors that have shifted around what is impacting fashion now. And that's really happened from COVID onwards.
And has there been any insight so far this year into kind of people's appetite for booking summer holidays abroad and spending there, or are we seeing that as people still holding back and maybe looking for late deals?
Well, I think there's a lot of holding back and working for late deals. One of the statements that the government put out in terms of the press release around the inflation rate was the fact that flights have actually come down in price, and there has been some reduction in fuel costs as well, so that will have helped. But there's nothing being huge, and there's some offers. If you look on all the advertising and marketing from all the sort of leading travel companies, they're offering deals still. Yeah.
So again, all plays into the consumer's hands. As you said, there's so many uncertainty in the world, certainly with the stuff in terms of the unrest. Maybe that starts to impact oil prices, which sees things go up. So I am not going to promise good news next month. We'll see if we're still in our holding pattern and at some point given permission to land, and we can all cheer and start to see that upward movement. But it seems like we've kind of got stuck in this. I won't say it's a rut, but we've got stuck in this cycle of a bit of a standoff of people wanting to preserve money because they're unsure, but then clearly that has an impact when you start to see the figures.
Yeah, and I think what in terms of what this means for retail and retailers, and what are the actionable insights? These insights are only as good as what you can do with them, really. But it's about trying to find a different way to market, not just on price. It's got to be something else out there that will try and tempt and tease consumers to part with their cash, whether that's creating greater community, greater spirit, something to try and turn that coin over and prompt people to buy.
Yeah, and we've seen, I think we talked about before, collaboration seems to be coming more to the front, certainly in fashion. People like Adidas doing stuff with Liberty and limited editions and, influencers and all the viral stuff that goes. So I'm not saying any of that's easy or cheap, but that all starts to play through. And again, as we talked before, sometimes the focus is on selling more to the same people, because getting new customers is really tricky, but driving average transaction value, ATV, is I think the smart play at the moment, and seeing lots of retailers we're working with making that their almost number one KPI of how we drive in ATV.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because actually the ATV in fashion dropped by 1.8%. So, but the overall sales dropped by 3.6%. So actually there's a drop in customers and transactions they're making. Food and drink, actually, hospitality was the only one of the 5 sectors where there's an increase in ATV. They also had a reduction in customers spending and the number of transactions they made, but the ATV of those who did went up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think there's been some stealth price increases on the back of the NI stuff in some of those industries as well that have probably started to come through.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Always great to talk. I promise we will at some point. I don't know which year, I don't know which month, have positive news, but I think understanding the numbers is of great value, because then you can do something with it, like you say, in terms of the actionable insights. So always a pleasure, Di. Appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure, Simon.